for me. She said, what could we do? What could we do together? And that's the exciting thing for me about Deaneries. It's not what can I do, it's what can we do together. And Sade had kind of captured that sense of, it's not just about charity. It's not just about me going around there and sorting out her problem. It's about us working together to figure out how we solve a problem as complex as housing. You've heard the story, I'm sure, of the kind of the river, and somebody sees a child coming down the river and they drag them out the river to save them. And then another one comes along, and so they grab the person out of the river and they get them dry. And before long, there's a team of people, and they've got kind of jackets and high-vis on, and they're a church team, and they're getting into it. They're enjoying volunteering for this particular opportunity until some bright spark comes along and says, really good, the work you're doing. It's really amazing that you're saving these people out of the river. But has anyone ever figured to go upstream and figured out who's pushing them in the first place? And for me, I think the work of, the reason initially I was skeptical about Citizens UK, but the thing I fell in love with and why I've been working with them for now 7 years is because we're trying to figure out, how do you go upstream? How do you not just do charity, but how do you do justice? And how do you not do it to people, but how do you do it with them, so that actually there's a sense of dignity and pride about people and the effect that they can change things in their own lives. So the gospel for me has become, yes, about love, but also about charity and also about justice. But how do you get justice? Difficult on your own, right? Don't know if you've ever tried trying to fight the system or do something different or challenge something. I know that I did. I can see some of you nodding your heads. That kind of feeling of knocking your head against a brick wall, right? And we have a phrase which is, you get the justice, you have the power to compel. You get the justice, you have the power to compel. And for me, I think, growing up in the Christian church and having instilled in me this sense of a moral vision, if you like, for the world about justice and equality, I spent most of my life kind of shouting into the wilderness about how the world should be. And I thought it was enough to win the moral argument. And I think sometimes as the church, that is how we are. And we've got some good moral arguments. There's not, it's true, but actually it's not enough. Because in the world that we live in, if you want to make change, you've got to have power. And power is simply this, the ability to act. And the thing that Sade was so angry about and so desperate to have in her own situation in housing was, how do I get the ability to act? How do I take agency in my own life, in my own world? Martin Luther King said, power without love is reckless. So you might be in your own mind thinking, but is power a good thing? Without love, it's reckless. It's abusive. But love without power is sentimental and anemic. I want you to take a minute. If power is the ability to act, which is the dictionary definition, can you think of a time when you, as an individual, or perhaps in your church, have identified a problem or an issue in your community that was too big or that you didn't have the power to tackle? I'm sure you can think of lots, but think for a moment. When was there a time, and what was the issue? And then I want you just to take a moment, once you've thought about that, just to turn to the person next to them. What's the issue, maybe in your deanery that you've discussed amongst each other, maybe in your church that you've talked about, or maybe on your own that you've experienced. And just turn to the person next to you. What is that issue? And I'll be generous. I'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. I wonder if we, it might be interesting just to hear, it might just be, yeah, it might be interesting just to hear some of those, what are some of those issues that you're grappling with, thinking about, struggling with? Anybody want to share? What are some of the issues in your community? Yeah.
Shall I shout?
Yeah, shout, yeah.
Reform of the welfare system.
We've got two, so one here and then one there, yeah.
Reform of the welfare system and the consequences that we're all seeing around us.
Yeah. Okay.
Reform of the welfare system and the consequences we're all seeing in our society.
Yeah, it's huge, huge problem. Other people feel that? Really, really impacting people. Thank you for sharing that, yeah.
Housing for asylum seekers, some of the housing that they live in is awful.
Yeah.
We've got a couple with a brand new baby and it's got bed bugs and the baby's got bites on it and stuff. But they're afraid for you to act or stand up on their behalf because they think it might jeopardise their claim for status, and they certainly don't want to rock the boat, so they're a really fearful and vulnerable group.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing that. There's one here and then one down here as well. Yeah.
Our issue is young people, both young ladies and young gentlemen who are not ambitious. We have got a very renowned university, Loughborough University. I think you all know it. You talk about it, these young people don't want to know. What are they interested in? Getting into things that will get them into trouble. The young gentlemen, drugs, and the young ladies, as soon as they finish their GCSEs, aspiring to get pregnant, have a baby, get a council house, and the story goes on.
Thank you. So maybe one more over here. Yeah.
Is that a stretch or a question?
Working with offenders, sex offenders, vulnerable adults. In the